officially been in an Aussie GD-R.
Yes, sir.
In this episode of Motive Garage presented by Spares Box, we take our R32 GT-R to the Dragstrip for some testing and start moving into hypercar killer territory as we start knocking on the door of an 8-second pass. Now, before we get into it, you guys need to save the date. GTR Festival 2023 is going to be on May 27th at Sydney Dragway. Our plan is for it to be the biggest and best yet, with a whole new entertainment package being developed for the event, and we're going to be bringing special guests from all over the globe. We're not going to announce them now, but feel free to comment below. Who do you think we should bring, and who do you think we are bringing to GTR Festival 2023? Now, if you're a regular viewer of our channel, you know that we've been developing our GTR for a very long time, and lately we've been trying to develop the perfect 1,000 horsepower GTR street car. Now, a lot of people are wondering, why haven't we taken it to the drags yet? Well, there's actually a couple of reasons. Now, the car has full roll cage, parachute, isolator. In fact, it has everything that it needs to get teched, and I actually did go to get the car teched a few years ago. And I've never said this publicly, but the reason I didn't keep going through with that process is when I went to get my drag racing license, I actually couldn't pass the medical due to a condition in my blood. And that's one of the reasons why I needed to lose a whole bunch of weight and wanted to, was to get healthier and get in better condition so I could actually get my license. So the reason I never followed through with getting teched was actually due to my health. Now that I've fixed that problem, I'm going to get the car teched, get my drag racing license, and can go and test the car properly at Sydney Dragway on a fully prepped test day and get the time slip this car deserves. The other reason I haven't been in a rush to go back to the track is, well, we've just been testing a lot of parts, and I've been wanting to get this combination perfect before we then go to the drag, because the last thing I wanted to do was start trying to set it up specifically for drags when we're trying to make the perfect 1,000 horsepower street car. So when it was time to go run an 8, I thought, you know, we'll actually stop, get ready, prep the car and go run an 8. But things have changed a little bit. With the Nissan Powered Nationals at Heathcote Park Raceway, we just wanted to take our GTR down there exactly how we drive it. I literally bought it home, put it on the trailer, and all we did was swap on some 5-year-old drag radials. Air filter still on, full exhaust system, pump E85 from the service station, exactly how I drive it on the street, obviously, except on full power. Now, the car has quite a few changes to the setup since the last time I drag raced. It's now got a line locker, obviously it's now drive-by-wire, and I haven't tested the launch control or flat shift or anything like that since we've had that new setup. So the very first run at Heathcote, I just put the car on 20 pounder boost, took it easy, and just got a feel for the car to see what it could do. So on 20 pounder boost with about 850 horsepower, the car ran, well, perfectly, 146 mile an hour, but it did bog down. So all I did was look through the logs, turn up the launch control RPM a little bit, and try again.
Wanted to drive through the clutch, so like I didn't want to stay. Oh, there we go. Yeah. 9464 160. There we go. All right, 160 mile. That's, for me, that was like, it's moving. Yeah. If it breaks 160, I said I'd be pretty stoked. So it was only a 1660.
Yeah, no, it spun through the 60.
Yeah. So there's still 2 tenths in it realistically, in the 60s, so 410, that's almost knocking on an 8 with a perfect pass already. Yep. 160, yeah, there we go. All right. Yeah, there we go.
Now, I must admit, I was pretty impressed and surprised by that ET on that run. Now, it spun in first and had a mid-1.6 60-foot time, which, you know, isn't completely terrible, but it's pretty bad when you're trying to run a number. And it spun in first gear, but the big problem with that run is I actually pulled second too early because I didn't realise how much it was wheel spinning because it was still accelerating pretty hard. And it bogged down in second gear. On the logs, it said it went down to 3,600 RPM. Now, most big turbo cars, if you did that, your run would be over, forget it. But the G45 is that good that it came back on that quickly. The car powered home and went 9.4 at 160 miles per hour. Now, another thing we did notice on that run is the car was actually creeping when it was on the launch control and nearly broke the beams. Now, this isn't a problem with the clutch in terms of holding power. This is actually a setup problem where basically the carrier and the throwout bearing are basically not correct for this car, and we need to make a few adjustments there. Basically what's happening, you put your foot on the clutch when you're in first gear, put your foot flat on the launch control, and the inertia of that clutch spinning and starting to make some power on the launch control, it just grabs slightly. Now the problem with that is when it starts to grab and move forward, you risk breaking the beam, but the other problem is you can't actually modulate the clutch once that happens, because once it starts to grab, it starts to get hot, it wants to grab some more, and as soon as you move your foot, even 1 millimeter, the thing wants to just basically grab, which means the car's either going to bog or it's going to wheel spin, and on that run, we got wheel spin. So really, really difficult to drive it out of the hole, but typical me, got the laptop out, looked at the logs, made sure it was all good. It was. Guys from JMA helped me try and adjust the clutch externally, so basically on the pedal, as much as we could, and we crossed our fingers to go again and see if we could go quicker.
Actually, no.
That'll do.
That was a terrible run, and it still did that.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
9.2 at 161 with a 175/60 and a clutch kick.
The 60 was house, but come on.
It wants to creep through when I'm on the launch control. Yeah, of course I'm going again.
Yeah.
Holy crap. That 1.5/60s, that's an 8. Because that went first to second that time.
That could have been an 8.
That would have been an 8 with a launch.
Yeah.
161.5. That's what getting into second properly did.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, if you thought I was surprised and impressed by the first full power run, I was absolutely flabbergasted by that run. It was messy, the launch was terrible, and honestly, that launch had no right to be attached to a run that quick. So what happened? Well, like the last run, the clutch did grab during the launch control bit, which gave me no clutch modulation whatsoever. And this time, instead of wheel spinning, it bogged down. Now, as it started to bog down, I thought I'd put a little bit of clutch back in, but because the clutch had become like a light switch, it was basically a clutch kick. I did a drifter spec launch in that car. I didn't mean to, it just happened. And then in the logs, I could see I actually did 2 pedals on the accelerator to try and get traction. But this time I pulled second perfectly, and basically from there on, the run was perfectly fine. But it was a 1.75 60-foot time. That is, honestly, for a GTR and drag race, is terrible. But somehow managed to go 9.2 at 161.5 miles per hour. Now, there's good and bad to what just happened. The bad is the clutch is definitely going to have to come out of the car, do a new carrier and throw out bearing setup and get that adjustment correct. But the good thing is that data shows us that car is well and truly capable of an 8-second pass the way it is. I thought I was going to have to go a bigger rear housing and do a little bit more, but 161.5 miles per hour and a 9.2 with a 60-foot time of 1.75, we've got 3/10 left in the 60-foot if we need it. So just that 3/10 is enough to go in the 8s. But as they say, A tenth at one end is 2/10 at the other. Now, even if that's close to true, that means we can go deep into the eights with the car. Now, as you can imagine, at this point, I was pretty pumped up. We tried adjusting the clutch again a little bit more, and we headed out for one last attempt when it was cooler in the afternoon to see if we could fluke an 8 on our very first day of testing with the car.
What did it take with it?
Sensor out with it. It's fine. Which sensor? That's why.
It's just not plugged though.
You're gonna break it.
Well, the 8-second pass wasn't to be that day. I must admit that when I saw a piece of debris come out of the bonnet vent and saw the oil pressure warning light come on, my heart did sink straight away, because obviously an engine shutting down and a piece of debris at the bonnet usually means a pretty catastrophic failure. It was just an alternator belt. When it broke, it basically hit the cam angle sensor plug, pulled it out, which obviously would have shut the engine down, but it actually also pulled out the wiring for the oil pressure sensor down the bottom. So the Heathcote saw 0 oil pressure and shut the engine down straight away. So all of the safety parameters did their job. So I actually think that's a good thing. It's kind of like a blessing in disguise. With an event to run, I was pretty busy, but the guys from JMA Automotive, thanks John and the boys, they put a new belt on for me, fixed up the wiring the next morning so we could head out and do a run for the crowd on competition day at the Nissan Powered Nationals.
Well, the clutch creeped again, and then I think it kind of bogged, come on, spun again, so it kind of went for second a bit too early, and it bogged down a little bit in second again, so it'll probably only be like a mid-9. But hey, crowd got to see it run. That's the main thing I wanted for that pass. I just don't think the clutch is fixable today while running an event to try and go for an 8. I'm just already stoked that we're 9.2, we're over 160, feeling good.
Now, I knew with the clutch the way it was, I wouldn't be able to put down a perfect pass in the GTR, but I wanted to do a run for the crowd. That was it. That's why I went out. And a 9.5 at 160 miles per hour is still pretty cool to watch. And obviously the mile an hour shows the power pretty well. Now, with the clutch playing up like that, it was perfectly fine once you're in gear and drove perfectly fine normally. We decided to give the car a rest and go back out in the roll racing, which happened late afternoon as the weather started to cool down.
That was sick.
Well, as you can see, the car was flying 165 mile per hour trap speed with a quarter-mile roll race. And that was great fun, racing against Reaper as well. Now, with the car on point, I decided I would take Hert from Hoonigan for a ride in the car. He was at the Nissan Powered Nationals thanks to Keep It Reet, who brought him over for their drift night the night before. They brought him out to Heathcote for the Nissan Powered Nationals. So I thought it was time for Hert to find out what a real Aussie GD-R is like.
beat an Australian GD-R because that was on 1100 and that was moving around a bit and that was pretty wild, that one.
That was pretty spicy.
Yeah, that was spicy. That was spicy. You're ruined now.
I need all of it. I need a sequential. I need a G45. I need the bottom end and mechanical fuel pump. I need all of it.
How quick is that on, bud? It's on, man. Little bit of a...
This guy drives all right.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. Sorry. This guy drives all right.
Well, Hert has now officially experienced a true blue Aussie GTR. He's a changed man. Now, if you've seen previous videos of us with Hert, you'll know that we're going to be helping him build his GTR in 2023. Now, overall, I was incredibly happy with what our GTR did at Heathcote. Like I said earlier in the video, we didn't go down there to run a number. We just went down there to have a bit of fun, do some runs for the crowd. So to come away with a 9.2 at 161.5 in the current setup, which is how we drive it on the street, I'm stoked. And my plan now is, rather than wait and test different rear housings and all these other things, I want to try and run an 8-second pass in the car the way it is. Air filter on, full exhaust, pump E85, the smallest rear housing for that turbo, exactly how I drive it. And the problem we have now though is it's nearly Christmas, then it's New Year's, and then it's really hot in Australia. So we may not actually get back to the track for a couple of months. Incredibly happy with what the car is capable of. We've just got to go give it the pass or the time slip that that car deserves. Because if that car can go 8s the way that I drive it on the street, we might have to change the name from Supercar Killer to Hypercar Killer. In the meantime, we're taking our GTR to the Summer Nats. You'll be able to check it out on display on our Modi video stand behind Tough Street. And we're also going to put it on the dyno, and I'm going to enter the Horsepower Heroes for the very first time. Hert will also be our special guest at Summer Nats as well, so you'll probably see him in the passenger seat of our GTR cruising around Braddon and the Summer Nats. So, hope to see you there.